So I don't know if you guys have seen this, and you got to take this stuff with a grain of salt, folks. I don't, what do we know about Fairgames, right? This is stuff that you probably must have heard maybe from a play tester, maybe from, somebody with insider knowledge, or maybe something must have got wind and, flown somewhere. PS5 PC live service Fairgames is a super clunky cross between Fortnite and The Division. This is written by Sammy Barker. Hey, what did The Division do to y'all, man? That's my jam. Why would y'all want to, throw shade at one of my favorite games like that? It's not fair. Let's not. Division is a solid ride. I mean, animations, shooting, gunplay, weapons play, skills play, and all that. It's a nice game. Division 2. Division 1 is, better in many aspects. Division 2 has its own strong points. But again, these are established titles that took, massive Ubisoft years to actually craft this experience, because this game has been in development before it even launched in its first iteration for a very long time. Okay? So, you better not be saying crap about The Division in this article, Miss Barker, because it's not going to be, Mr. Barker. Sorry, that's Zarmina Khan, Miss Khan. I don't know. They're right for different. This is Push Square. She writes for PlayStation Lifestyle. Okay. Sometimes I'll mix them up. Fairgames, formerly known as Fairgames with the $sign, of course, was announced alongside Sony's disastrous first-person shooter Concord as part of the firm's wider live service push. However, recently we have heard that developer Haven Studios founder Jade Raymond, a Ubisoft veteran, has departed the company following a round of bad feedback. And now, courtesy of the latest episode of PlayStation Podcast, Sacred Symbols paywalled more information about the project is beginning to trickle out. Apparently, a pre-alpha was distributed via PSN under the name Project Hearts, enabling a small number of participants to go hands-on with the game. According to one of those people, it's a battle royale crossed with an extraction shooter. The Division is a looter shooter. With elements of both Fortnite and The Division present. Okay, Sammy, you should play The Division, man. Division is a looter shooter. We do have an extraction mode in The Division 1 and 2. In fact, we have two distinct extraction modes in The Division 1, with survival being one. And then there's a dark zone, which survival is actually played in the open world and the dark zone in Division 1. One of the best modes ever. While Ubisoft Massive did not expand on that, concept in the Division 2, I don't know what they were dreaming of. Oh, yeah, they were busy making Avatar and Star Wars. That's what it was. If you remember the original trailer, it had a contemporary Robin Hood vibe to it, as squads of fashionable rogues robbed from the rich. Okay, what did they do with it? Apparently, the game sees you dropped into a large urban environment with 3 to 4 and tasks you to blah, 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 blah. In other words, it sounds like yet another extraction shooter, similar to the uber popular Escape from Tarkov or Sony subsidiaries Marathon. Oops. But apparently the game doesn't feel good to play, as it's super clunky in its current guise, which reflects what Bloomberg wrote in its report on Raymond's departure. The feedback to the release has not been good. Sony said that it remains committed to Haven Studio under new leadership, of course, but it's been 4 years since the team was founded and more than 2 years since it was acquired outright. Once again, it paints a very precarious picture of the platform holder's live service push, with the plug pulled on Concord in unprecedented circumstances, and many of its online projects canceled behind closed doors. The company will understandably be feeling skittish about whatever it puts out next. The future of Fairgames, we suspect, is dangling by a thread. PlayStation needs money, guys. They need money to be able to fund these kinds of projects. And their investor class, in terms of this new direction, is not going to be too keen on this. The Division is under Ubisoft, and Ubisoft is in a very strange and precarious place. But here's the difference. They already have a solid game base, code base, mechanics base, and fan base for a Division game. Does that make sense? That's the difference. PlayStation needs to cultivate all of these things basically from scratch. Because regardless of what agreements they may have had with Arrowhead, there's probably that side of Arrowhead's code base that they more than likely are not going to be able to just go ahead and recycle and use for the game that they made, Helldivers 2. Of which, if they decide to even make another game, they'd have to build upon it or modify it heavily. It might as well be a thing where they kick off from scratch to build a unique game from that pathway. So PlayStation's formula for live service games, it's something that really needs a lot of work. I think this thing was poorly planned from the ground up. If I'm going to develop a bunch of games of a certain kind, I think the best way to go is building upon already existing technology. The Assassin's Creed games do that. That's Ubisoft's. You see, Ubisoft has an out. Many people still keep saying this about. I understand that they're in dire straits, but they have an out based on the amount of technology, R&D, and development that they've done in the past. If they choose to harness that properly, they can do very well and get out of this mess. The question is their leadership wise enough to leverage this properly? PlayStation's part, on the other hand, a lot of their IPs that they're trying to make now is not building upon what is already existing, and they're having to start a lot from scratch. They're having to do a lot of things from, perspectives that may not necessarily work out for them. Do you all remember how they canceled Factions? Factions already had this same thing. It had a knowledge base, a code base, a fan base, and also had basically its developers with a good understanding of how their system worked from the Uncharted live service and multiplayer aspect and the Last of Us, live service aspect. But they canceled that. They never leveraged it. You're hearing rumors about a Battlefront 3. This is what companies do. I'm just giving you all the development business side because I do game development, right? I work with developers. We run that and all that good stuff, right? Battlefront 3. DICE is more than likely going to be developing it, and if they're not, then another studio, another team, is more than likely going to be supporting them by using existing technology, frameworks, best practices to basically leverage that game. Battlefield is going to follow a similar pattern and paradigm. Call of Duty, in fact, Call of Duty has to go back and forth with different developers within the Activision pipeline, but they're using similar strategies, similar technology. In fact, they have the whole thing down, I'm sure, in those studios to a textbook. How else can they release a game like that every year? The Arkham games. Look at how textbook those games are in their delivery and in their iteration. Arkham Asylum. They build the world. They built a small asylum with specific units. They build a Batcave, and that's about it. Arkham City, they use that island portion of the game, right? Then Arkham Knight, they build the entire big Arkham City at the Batmobile. It was building upon what was already existing to create that level of success from a technical perspective. Then you look at Arkham Origins. Arkham Origins was built from a branch of Arkham City. Ben Mattis, who was the creative director or studio director at the time, is quoted as saying, when we were assigned to build this game, we reached out to Rocksteady and said, hey, man, can you help us? And they gave us a copy of all their files that they had used to build Arkham City. Another developer who worked at the time at Warner Brothers Montreal, who also worked at on Gotham Knights, in a podcast, is cited as specifically saying that it was a branch that they gave them from their repo of Arkham City. Another developer, in other interviews, I can't find that interview, it's just, it's annoying, said that they basically reversed engineered Arkham City to build Arkham Origins. Think about major games, think about major titles, think about major studios, right? Think about Capcom and its process and pipeline within. They build upon existing frameworks to make success. Consider Street Fighter, right? Hadouken and Shoryuken is the same input for 30 years. Even if you're not building with the same engine, using those things that are, that are familiar to both you and your player base is a way to go. Why did PlayStation decide that they want to go the Battle Royale route and, alienate its already existing player base, right? That can get the job done in terms of recognizing those games and then bringing in new people to already enjoy the existing, the existing games that they have. Make it bigger, market it, make it broader, and so on and so forth. They were chasing the bag. The moment Warner Brothers exited its core strengths, look what's happened to them. I just cited the Arkham games, right? Look at NetherRealm. NetherRealm is still following that similar path to an extent, right? They basically ended the support of Mortal Kombat 1, but they're still thriving because they're always making some side game, in the background while they're launching and supporting another title. Right? But the moment they decided they were going to take Rocksteady into the live service game, look how that turned out. The moment they were going to take Monolith into a live service game, look how that turned out. The moment they were going to take Warner Brothers Montreal into a co-op game, look how that turned out. So PlayStation, not saying they shouldn't make a live service game, but chasing the bag and tweaking your studio's identity, even if these are new studios, even if these are new entities and such, but not pursuing the paradigms that you've built and created strong foundations on, it's going to get you. It's going to get you. And I think this is why we're seeing these reports over here. Because I see no reason why Haven should have been making a new Battle Royale. While there's code base, assets, characters, knowledge base, and such in Naughty Dog. And why Naughty Dog was given an out to go ahead and be doing other random stuff when PlayStation needed a live service game and could have used those funds to expand Naughty Dog rather than acquire 3 more entities, Bungie, Haven, Firewalk, to the tune of at least close to $5 billion, maybe. Yeah, that was not well thought out. If you're a PlayStation fan, this should be at the cusp of all your conversations and discussions. On the podcasts, this is what y'all should be talking about. I don't know what PlayStation fanboy talking head punditry, so-called, have been doing the last 5 years. But look at what PlayStation is, that Ubisoft, in my opinion, from a technical side, has a more likely pathway out of this nonsense than they do in the live service arena. Wow. Talk to me in the comment section. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.